Assalamualaikum. Alright, so today we are going to look at the new chapter, Basic of Analysis, which is chapter 4. So this is the preview of what we are going to learn from this chapter. So number 1, we are going to look at the ratio analysis, which consists of 4 types of ratios. So I'm sure that you are already familiar with these 4 types of ratio. And then we're going to look at the comparative financial statement analysis, which is a comparative comparison. We're going to compare from year to year change, okay, and then using the indexed number trend. And then the common size financial statement analysis, and the last one is the cash flow analysis. Alright, so let's have a look at the introduction. Okay, a financial ratio is a relative magnitude of 2 selected numerical values taken from a company's financial statement. So, we are going to look at the numerical values taken from a company's financial statement, okay, to look at the magnitude, to what extent this ratio is changing and effect to the condition of a company. Okay, and the ratios are used to evaluate the overall financial condition of a corporation. So, we are going to calculate the ratio and then to interpret the ratio, okay, to look at the performance of the company, whether the company is doing good or not. Alright, so these are the importance of financial ratio. So, it is used by the financial managers, okay, to diagnose the health of the company, okay, to look at the health of the company, and used by the investors in making decision whether to invest or not to invest in the company. And then it is used by the creditors to determine whether or not to extend credit to the company. Alright, and then the good ratios will show that the companies are financially strong. Okay, so financial ratios allow comparisons between what? Between the company and the competitors. We can compare ourselves, our company with the competitors, and we can compare our company with the industry average, and also we can compare our company within our company with our company, meaning to say with the previous year, okay, from a different time period for the company itself, right? And then how to do it? So number 1, we have to compute. Okay, compute means you have to calculate using the ratio formula. Okay, so this is based on the formula, and then you compare it, okay, either with the industry or with the previous year or with the your competitors, and then you are going to comment, okay, whether your ratio is good or not, why it is good, why it is not good, okay, to reflect the performance of the financial condition of the company. Okay, so the financial ratio analysis okay, is the use of relationship among financial statement accounts to gauge the company financial condition and performance of a company. So we can classify the ratio based on the type of information on the ratio provide. So macam yang tadi mula-mula tadi, you look at 4 different types of ratio. So which is the number 1, efficiency ratio. Okay, so the efficiency ratio, we are going to look at the effectiveness of the company in putting its asset investment to use, right? And then number 2, liquidity ratio, we are going to look at the ability of the company to pay its short-term obligations. And then the solvency ratio, we are going to look at the ability of the company to satisfy debts obligations. And then the last one is the profitability ratios. Okay, we're going to look at the ability of the company to manage expenses to produce profits from sales. Okay, now let's have a look at one by one. Number 1, liquidity ratio. So this ratio, as mentioned before, okay, to look at the firm's ability to meet short-term obligations. So short-term obligations ni is the current liabilities lah. Okay, like the account payable, alright. Apa lagi? Accrued liabilities, short-term debt, okay, something like that. It's the current liability or the short-term liability. So whether the company has the resources to pay its short-term creditors when payments are due. Okay, so that's the purpose of calculating the liquidity ratio. So these are many kind of the liquidity ratio. Okay, to check the liquidity of the company, we can calculate the current ratio, quick ratio, day to sell inventory, average collection period, and also the net working capital. Okay, now let's have a look at the ratio one by one. Okay, the current ratio. So this is a formula of the current ratio. Current ratio is equal to current asset divided by the current liabilities. Okay, so what is the function? Okay, so the function is to use to show the liquidity, okay, or to measure the ability of a firm to meet its short-term ataupun the current obligations. Okay, so the ideal ratio should be more than 1. So, kenalah higher than 1. Okay, as it suggests that the firm is able to pay for the current liabilities with the current assets. So, kena ada sekali ganda lebih daripada current assets. Alright. And then the decision rule, the higher ratio, the better. So, the cut-off point dia tadi must be more than 1. Okay, then the quick ratio is quite similar with the current ratio unless the current asset, the formula dekat sini, current asset, we minus with the average inventories and prepaid expenses. Okay, why? Because they are harder to be turned into cash. Alright, so this one is a quick test ratio. So, yang ni kita minus with the inventory and prepaid expenses. So, the ideal ratio pun sama juga, must be more than 1, and then the decision rule, the higher the ratio is the better. Okay, and then days to sell inventories. So, this one is to show how many days, berapa hari, okay, are taken by the firm to clear or to sell off all of its inventories. Kita nak tengok how many days the company take to sell their inventories. So, the ideal ratio or decision, the shorter ratio is favorable. Maksudnya makin cepatlah dia boleh jual dia punya inventories. So, to calculate the day to sell inventories, average inventory divide by the COGS time with 360. Okay. 360 days lah tu. Kan. And the next average collection period. Okay. So, ini kita nak measure how long the firm takes to collect its account receivable. Okay. Alright, so the shorter days are favorable. Maksudnya semakin cepat dia boleh collect their receivables. Okay, so the formula to calculate the ACP is equal to account receivable divided by the credit sales and sama. We times with 360 days. Okay. And then the net working capital. Okay, a net working capital. Ni. Kenapa kat sini ni dia punya equal ni? Okay, sorry. Supposed to be here. Net working capital is equal to current asset minus current liabilities. Okay. So, the positive net working capital means the company has more current asset than current liabilities. Okay. So, the company is liquid and able to meet short-term obligation. But, too much net working capital is not good because liquid assets do not bring much income. So, here it's assumed that the company has high opportunity cost. So, the ideal ratio as long as the positive value. Maksudnya current asset must be larger or bigger than the current liability. So, the higher the better but not too high. Alright.